Oh, so you had it listed with an agent and she's not working anymore? Nah, we got a lot. A lot of people are still, people who, especially like people who are looking for lots either for themselves or like builders to build another house. They don't. Christmas doesn't slow them down. In fact, they work harder because they know that other people are taking their foot off the gas, and you know, because of that, they know that they can find the opportunities while everybody else is asleep at the wheel. If you know what I mean. Um, so you said that an agent reached out. She said she would help you. Did you hire her or not yet? Okay. The reason why I'm calling Bradford is after 2 decades of helping sellers just like you, I saw your property and I said, wait a minute. I mean, like this is I'm actually putting something on the market not too far from you, and I figured it might be an opportunity to create a win-win because I'll be marketing a couple other properties. Would you be opposed to interviewing a powerful agent like myself for the job of getting this property sold for you? Well, so you said you'd have an agent that's going to help you. So it does sounds like you're not opposed to hiring an agent, correct? Yeah. No, but I know that's the case, Bradford, because your property's on the market. If I had a buyer right now and the buyer offered you the right number, of course you'd work with my buyer. And how much commission would you pay the buyer's agent? Yeah, how much commission would you pay the buyer's agent? I'm looking as a buyer's agent, I teach the agents on my team to get as much as they can get, right? It would be crazy not to ask for top dollar. But if you're already working, you say, hey, if you have a buyer, I'm okay working with your buyer. You must have in your mind the commission that you want. I can't tell you how much to pay. You have to say, oh, I'm offering this 2%, 3%, 4%, whatever it is up to you. 8 or 10%. So let me just understand. So you're saying to the agent, the female agent, because you say her, you're saying to her that if she brings you a buyer quickly, you would give her between 8 and 10%. Yeah. So, I mean, that sounds like a really incredible incentive. And here's what concerns me. Most of the agents, most of the agents, Bradford, in the marketplace don't deal with land. Now, she may say she deals with land, and she may deal with land. Um, but most don't. Most are just selling houses, and they're calling just like me. But they're just calling around trying to find sellers who would hire them. However, on the other hand, there's me, and after 22 years of being a seller's advocate, working for sellers, I actually run an investment group. We have over 600 agents and regular people, investors, developers, builders in my community. Um, but here's the thing, I mean, if you're willing to pay 8 or 10% to a buyer's agent, what you're telling me is you're willing to pay 10% to an agent who's working against you. In other words, if they bring a buyer, if they call you up tomorrow and say, hey, Bradford, I have a buyer. One of my buyers is interested in your property. and you haven't signed an agency contract with them, but they bring a buyer, who do they work for, you or the buyer? No, it's not true. They actually work for the buyer because they have to sign a buyer agency contract, right? In the state of New Jersey, after the lawsuit with the National Association of Realtors, we are all required to, if you're working with a buyer, you have to sign a buyer agency agreement, a BAA, or a buyer representation agreement, BRA, whatever you want to call it, right? You have to sign a BRA. And so by nature of that relationship, they work legally for the buyer, which means if a buyer calls me and says, Eric, we're working together. Hey, and I say, oh, by the way, I spoke to this guy today. He's got a lot. It's a half acre buildable in Randolph on Millbrook Ave. Um, he's asking 130. Good. Let's talk to him. Does he have any plan? Now I'm bringing my buyer. I'm calling you. I say, Bradford, one of my guys is interested. I work for the buyer. And all I'm saying is you're marketing the property. What if you can continue to market the property, look for your buyer, but then if you found out that by working with me, as your agent representing you, that I not only would be able to allow you to continue to market it, but that you wouldn't have to pay 8 or 10% to a buyer's agent. If you signed with me for 7%, and we would market the property to my database and to the people who I know who are builders, I represent you. I wouldn't be representing those buyers. And if I can get it sold with less headache and quicker, and you're paying a little bit less commission, would you mind? Yes. I mean, in October when you talked to him, he said he would have to go like to the town and get approvals and stuff. Right. And so most buyers, so again, I'm sorry, I cut you off. My apologies. So most buyers who you speak to, Bradford, have you sold multiple lots before? Have you sold lots like this in the past? Okay, let me just, and again, I don't want to talk to you like I am the teacher and you're the student. I don't want to, you know, but again, I've been doing this for almost 2.5 decades, and most buyers who call you directly, and even if they call with an agent, right? Most buyers looking at this lot are not going to pay you the $130,000 or whatever until they have the town's approvals to get the work that they want done. In other words, you say you're marketing the property, and anyone who calls you, you say, hey, it's a half acre, it's a buildable lot in Randolph. All sounds good. I'll take it. I'll give you $125,000. And you say, okay, I'll take your 125 grand, no problem. You're going to get a contract from their attorney, but the attorney's contract will always say the sale is contingent upon the buyer getting the approvals from the township to build a single family or whatever they want to build there, right? Let's say it's zoned for single family. It's contingent upon getting the approvals from the township to build a single family home. Now, in order to get the approvals, they have to hire a surveyor. They have to hire, did you have a survey of the property? Okay. So they have to hire a surveyor, they have to hire an architect, an engineer, they have to have a plans drawn up. Then they have to present those plans to the township. They'll probably go back and forth with the township. As long as it is the proper, how do I say, it's a proper product for what is zoned for that particular lot, and it fits within the confines of whatever the township requires, the side yard setbacks, the size of the house, whatever the structure is, eventually they'll get an approval. It'll probably cost upwards of $35,000 to get those approvals between the plans, the professional help from the planner and the engineer and the architect. They're each going to charge money, a lawyer's fees. They have to meet with the township, during the monthly, they have to meet with and that's if they don't need a variance. If they don't need a variance, it should take anywhere from, say, 3 to 4, maybe 5 months on the long side. If they need a
Eric, I'm going
variance,
to the agent call.
it could take 9 or 10 months or
So
more, right? But let's just
I'll
assume
see you
it
guys
doesn't
tomorrow.
need a variance. And whatever they want to build is what's acceptable for the township. They still have to hire these professionals and go through the process. So the contract that you get, Bradford, would not be a contract that says, oh, yeah, sure, I'm going to buy that land. Boom, done. Let's close next week. It just doesn't work that way, because what they're doing is, now, I don't know, how did you pick up the property? How did you buy it? You bought it what? Okay, cool. So, and I'm sure you got it at a much better price, hopefully, right? So you took a risk, which is probably a good calculated risk. You're saying, hey, if I got this property for X, I don't know what you paid, it's okay. If I pick up this property for X and I could sell it for Y, let's go for it, right? And that's sometimes, if you get a really good deal on a property, you're like, hey, I'm not going to worry about the permits, or not permits, approvals. But typically what happens is, when somebody's going from just a piece of raw land and then they're going to buy it for the purposes of building something on it, they typically will not lock themselves in and give you 125 or 130,000 until the township says, you know what? You have our approvals. You can apply for permits to build your property that you want to build. So, having said that, what happens is, most agents don't even know this process. And that's why I understand if you don't want to work with an agent. But I've been around this space for many years, and I help people like you sell their property. So what I would do, if you're not opposed to it, is I certainly wouldn't charge you any more than what you're willing to pay, but I would help get qualified buyers who know what they're doing. Because what you're going to find is, and I could show you empirical data that I've sold land like this before. I sell land like this. It's not all I do. I do houses and I do multifamily, but I sell land like this. And what you're going to find is, the last lot I sold that actually had approvals. Once you, as the owner, you could invest the $20,000, $30,000 yourself, get approvals from the town to build a 3,000 square foot house. Now your lot is worth a lot more money, right? Because once you go through the time, the effort, and the money to get approvals, it's a much easier sale for you. Because think of it this way. I don't play football, but I watched the game a few times. When they kick the ball to the one team and the team receives the ball, they're usually somewhere around the 10, 15-yard line, right? And the goal is to run all the way back to the other end zone. So you bought that property, right? You've received the ball on your 5-yard line. Everything you do gets you further down the field. So let's say you got a survey. Now you're on the 10-yard line. Let's say you get you hire an engineer, a site planner, and you get a site plan, and then you hire an architect, and the architect puts the plans together based on what when I have architects that work for me now that I'm doing a property in Clifton. And in order to do what I want to do, the architect knows, he understands the town codes and the restrictions, and he builds for me, he draws for me what's acceptable. But it costs me five, six, seven for a whole house. It's going to cost you $10,000 or $12,000 for the plans. So I pay the architect. He builds the MEPs, mechanical, electrical, and the building plans. Now you're on the 25-yard line. Then I submit them to the township. I'm on the 50-yard line. They approve it. I'm on the 75-yard line, right? Now I have approved plans. Now when I go back to the marketplace, I could say I want $200,000 for this house, for the land. Why do I want 200? And why will somebody pay me 200? And I'm just using this as a number. It may be 175, it may be 225. The reason they would pay me is now I have not only do I have a lot that's a half acre, but I have a lot that has approved plans that I can hand over to the buyer and they can go apply for permits and go to work. Right? What do you mean? Did you say another process? Yes, 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 yes. Absolutely. So the buyer, in most cases, right? I'm not telling you have to do what I just said. I'm saying it's an option, and it can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm with you. Yeah.
Oh, so I'm not telling you have to go through that process. I'm just sharing with you that's an option that some owners do to make the property more valuable. But here, you're going through the process and you're taking that risk. Because understand this, if I were the buyer, right? Let's say I own this property and I got it on the market for 130,000 and you come across it and you're thinking, you know what? You either want to build a house for your family or you want to build a house and sell it for profit. And you come across this land, you say, hey, $130,000. Like you should be getting phone calls every week, I would imagine, from potential buyers, right? I don't know if you are, but you should be. Every week, two, three calls a week. And
Yeah,
so,
that's true. Yeah.
yep, yep.
Yes. Oh,
Okay, so,
yeah, that's recently. Yeah.
right. So
And
let's say you're, let's say you call me, I'm the owner, and I tell you, listen, sure, let's make a deal. If you know what you're doing, and I'm telling, and your intention is to build a structure there, a house, let's just call it a house because it's a residential neighborhood. You're not going to buy that land until you have approvals from the town. So you will go under contract with me, and the contract will state that you're going to take all the risk. The buyer will take all the risk. I, as a seller, will give you 4 months, 120, maybe 180 days, 6 months, 5 months, 4 months, whatever it is, to get your approvals. And the sale will be subject to you getting your approvals. And if after 3 months, believe me, I've been down this road, after 3 months that you can't get approvals, the buyer will cancel the deal. Now the buyer just lost eight, nine, $10,000 in professional fees, right? They tried to get their approvals and the town won't give it to them. Let's just say that's not going to happen. That it will happen in your case. The challenge is it has to happen in order for this sale You know, your value of your property is not just the land, it's the land plus the approvals. Now, the value is less if there's no approvals, and it's significantly more if you have approvals. I'm not telling you to get approvals. What I'm sharing with you is just how it works. And I don't want you to be misled by a buyer who's, oh yeah, I'm interested. I'll call you next month. You know, that may be true. And here's what I can share with you. If you want a professional, someone who knows what they're doing to help you just sell this property, I would love to have that conversation. And if you have a buyer, Joe Schmo, who called you, you have the guy's phone number and his name, we could exclude him. You could say, Eric, I already have Joe Schmo. I don't want to pay you 7 or 8% commission if I already have the buyer. So what I would do in our contract, you know, the listing agreement with me, is I would exclude Joe Schmo from you having to pay me commission. If Joe Schmo is actually the guy who ends up buying that property, I wouldn't make a penny. You know, unless you wanted to pay me 1 or 2%, like, you know, 10, whatever, a couple bucks. But I would never, you know, like, that's your buyer. I have nothing to do with that buyer. You met that buyer before you met me, before I started marketing that property. The value that I bring to the table at this point is I sell property. If I don't sell property, I don't make money. I have a family to feed. So I know how to sell property. That's what I do. I do it at a fairly high level. And I'm very knowledgeable. So when a buyer calls me on the property or another agent calls me, in fact, what I'll do is if you say, Eric, okay, you know what? I want someone who knows what they're doing. You don't pay me anything unless I sell the property. So you could hire me today, tomorrow, whatever. And you don't pay me a nickel. If I work for the next 6 months in that property and then you sell it to Joe Schmo, you pay me nothing. If I don't sell it and you decide to end our relationship, you pay me nothing. You only pay me when you get paid, right? And until then, I'm working for free. I'm working on your interest to get this. We're partners to get this thing sold. The difference is I know how to do it and I know every ins and outs about selling land. And who knows? I may have a buyer in my database, but I can share with you that if I call you back and you didn't hire me, and I have an attorney who buys property like this because he partners with a builder and they build houses, I work for the buyer. And look, that's not the end of the world, but why would you pay an agent 10% when they really, do you think if I called you back that I'm trying to get you the highest price, or do you think I'm trying to get my buyer the best price on the deal?
Oh, actually, the agent is the land. We actually have to go through some wetlands, CEFRE approval.
So you have some wetlands on the property?
Huh?
You have wetlands on the property there?
Yeah, that's what the agent said. It says after, okay, let me read out what she sent me. She said, okay, hold on, Nicola, my deepest condolence. Sorry about that. After engineering due diligence, it has been discovered the land sponsor will have to go through wetland and CEFRE approval. We are willing to undergo the application and approval process, which is very expensive. So at this point, I'll tell you the land can only be sold for $100,000.
Who is this, the buyer or the agent?
The agent.
The agent works for the buyer or the agent works for you?
I think I told you for the buyer.
Yeah, so exactly what I'm trying to share with you. So that agent works for the buyer.
Yes. So she just said we just need the county to agree.
Exactly. So so that's where you need an agent representing you. You know, like like you're out there by yourself. Like, I don't know. You could be an experienced lawyer, a land lawyer, whatever. I don't know, so I don't want to assume anything. But you need a representative who has your interest, and then who could look at this information. And I'm not talking about a lawyer. You're eventually going to use a lawyer, but a lawyer is going to charge you. Again, if you have an agent like me, I'm looking to make sure I get you the best number under the best terms, and I don't get paid until you get paid. So I'm going to hook you up with the right lawyers and make sure they protect you and write the contract properly. And that other buyer, the other agent, represents the buyer's interest, not your interest. And so if you have this property out there for 130,000, they're going to say, yeah, well, you got to go under contract for 100,000, and we'll spend the money to try to get the EPA approvals with the wetlands and the conservancy. And then I'll tell you what's going to happen. If they move forward, they'll come back to you at a certain point, 3 months down the road, 4 months down the road, and they'll say, look, it's not what we thought it was. There's going to be a challenge, so we're going to either cancel, or you got to reduce your price to 75,000 or 80,000. And you're going to be like, really? Come on, what do you mean? And now it's 4 or 5 months later, and they're still willing to buy it, but because there's some more challenges, they're going to want to change the price. I mean, this happens all the time. Or they just cancel because they spent $5,000 on trying to get the thing, and they just didn't see them getting what they want. So, again, if you have that buyer agency there, you haven't signed a contract with her, so you don't owe her any commission. If you have a representative like me who's representing your interest, she then goes to me, and now I take over and negotiate on your behalf. You say, Eric, okay, I'll give you 8% commission. I'm going to give her a portion of my commission. It's you're gonna agree. Say, all right, you can give her a few percentage points. You keep the difference. But now she realizes that she's not dealing with Bradford, the property seller, who may or may not be fully educated on the process. She's dealing with a 22-year veteran who knows how to get these deals to the finish line. Meanwhile, I'm marketing it to other buyers, other agents who have buyers. Your property being for sale by owner is not really on the market. It's on a couple websites. When I market the property, I market it to a network of 30,000 agents, not just in New Jersey, but agents. I have over 4,000 agents on my team all throughout the country. And they have investors who, I got a call last week from an Arizona agent. He says, I got a couple investors. They're selling a property in Plainfield, and they want to buy some property in Morris County, yada, yada. Like, he's not even in New Jersey. So that's my network. That's the power of a network like mine. So, I mean, I have no problem if you have a couple people you're talking to. And even though you have that, my experience is the last land I sold, literally, we put it on for 120,000. I think we sold it for 85,000. She had approvals. This was in Bloomingdale, New Jersey, not in your town. So it's not as good as Randolph. I just sold a house in Randolph for over $1 million, so I know parts of Randolph is really good. But again, if this house could be built there, I have guys on my team, an attorney, who can tell me with no uncertain terms to say, yes, a builder can come in here and buy this and build a house, 3,000 square feet, no problem. I don't even know if she's telling you the facts, right? Like, hey, it's wetlands. Well, maybe it is, maybe it's not. But what I would ask is, would you be absolutely opposed to aligning yourself with someone like me who could work for your interest to get this thing sold and not ask you for a penny until I do it? I wouldn't get paid.
Okay. Yeah, you know what? Okay, okay, no problem. I did Bogodo. How about maybe with 80? Oh, hold on, I'm thinking maybe today or tomorrow, so we could talk much more. I'd like to reach out to her, try to know what's happening, and if there's no response, then you can go on with it. Is that okay?
Yeah, whatever you want, Bradford. I don't want you to do anything you don't feel comfortable doing.
Yeah.
And I'll leave you with
I'm
this.
very
I'll leave you with this.
interested.
Even if she
Okay.
responds, even if she
I'd
res-
like you to put and let me know what approval is actually. I don't know if she's lying actually because right now I'm currently in New York. My wife, she's a cancer patient, so she's in the hospital. She's going for a treatment. So
oh, I'm
this
sorry.
is why I don't know if everything she's saying is actually true, but I'm just I'm just playing along with her. You understand?
I understand. And look,
Yeah.
even if she's for real, I would my again, if you were my brother, my uncle, my cousin, and you called me up and said, Eric, this is what's going on, this is what's happening with this other agent, I would tell you to find an agent, a good agent who can market the property for you and still talk to this agent. That's fine. Talk to her. You know, that she wants you to sign a contract, that's where I would stop and say, well, let's let somebody who understands the contract. And again, the first thing is an agent because the agents don't get paid. If you hire a lawyer immediately, now I may look at that contract and say, you know what, this seems like a good contract. Hire a lawyer, a New Jersey, real estate land lawyer who can protect your interest. Then I'm not a lawyer, so I don't play one on TV. I'm not a lawyer. Um, so yeah, if you want to reach out to that agent and call me back, or if you say, Eric, call me tomorrow, I'll call you tomorrow, and we'll go from there.
Okay, no problem. I'll call you myself tomorrow. I'll call you.
All right, Bradford. If I don't hear from you by like 1 o'clock, can I call you back?
No, no, yeah, it's fine. Yeah, no problem.
Okay. All right. Well, stay warm, and you said your wife's going for treatment. Is it? Did I hear you properly?
Yeah.
I'll.
That's one of I'm actually looking for a fast buyer. So, you
I
know what
get
I'm
it.
saying?
I get it. I get it.
Yeah.
Well, that's probably why it's best that you and I talk again, and you'd be very happy. Um, I typically get this stuff done pretty quickly, but I don't want you to sign something to think that it's going to happen quickly because these things once you sign a contract, it typically isn't going to happen very quickly. Like selling a house, or selling a car. It's land. It's a little bit more involved. But I'm going to say a prayer for your wife. Everything comes out okay, and we'll talk tomorrow.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Also, I'd like to know if by any chance you just try and let me know whatever approval that I will be needing before you market it off as well.
Well, yeah, I can get you that information before we put it on the market. Absolutely. All right. Thank you. God bless. All right. Bye bye.
All right. Bye.
What happened, everybody? They disappeared on me. And you're still on mute. You're not on camera, or you're not on.
Yeah. No, they said they were gonna go to agent call something. Yeah, agent. I wasn't really sure what was that. Like a training or something.
That's $130,000 lot. I treat it like it's a $1.5 million listing.
Yeah, that was a long call.
Hey, John.
Hello.
Oh, I'm sorry. Wrong person. Um, this is Eric Belnikoff, Keller Williams Realty. I was calling because I'm going through my database, and I know that somebody spoke to one of my agents, Ameni, last month, and I'm just following up to find out if there's any plans in the future to selling the property. Is that a hello? Can you hear me?
Yes, boss. You're cutting on and off though.
Okay.
Can you hear me? Can I hear you now? Can you hear me okay?
Your call has been forwarded to an automated voice messaging system.
Hello, we are not available now. Please leave your name and phone number after the beep. We will return your call.
Anna, it's Eric Melnikov. You told me to keep my eyes and ears open for a property that you could renovate. You like to buy them cheap, renovate them, and rent them out, or whatever you want to do with it's up to you. I have something in the Montclair Heights section of Clifton, not too far from your house, actually, about 2 miles down the road off of Grove Street. Um, and the owner is open to having a conversation and selling it off market. Give me a call back on my mobile phone. The mobile phone number is 201 937 0329. 201 937 0329. Thanks. Moses? Hello?
AI is taking note.
Hi, Eric. It's Pete Demian.
Hey, Pete, how are you?
I'm good, bud. I'm good. I'm confused by your 23 tax return.
Hold on a second. Let me,
Dude, you know what?